She begged a stranger to pretend to be her boyfriend, unaware he was the Vampire King. What happened next would change both their lives forever. The rain fell like shattered glass against the cobblestones, turning the narrow alley into a river of reflected lamplight. Maya pressed herself against the cold brick wall, her soaked dress clinging to her skin, her breath coming in short, desperate gasps. Footsteps echoed from the main street, getting closer. She recognized the heavy tread, the deliberate pace of someone who enjoyed the hunt. 3 months of running, and Derek had found her again. Her hands trembled as she fumbled with her phone. The screen cracked from when he'd thrown it against the wall during their last fight. No battery. No one to call, no one who would believe that Derek Montgomery, beloved son of the city's wealthiest family, spent his private hours turning her into a collection of carefully hidden bruises. The footsteps grew louder. Maya's eyes darted around the alley, searching for an escape route, a hiding place, anything. That's when she saw him. A man stood in the shadows near the alley's far end, so still he might have been part of the darkness itself. He wore simple clothes, a dark coat with the collar turned up against the rain, hands tucked into his pockets. His face was obscured by the angle of the lamplight, but something about his posture suggested he was watching her. Watching and waiting. Maya had no choice. She pushed off from the wall and ran toward him, her soaked shoes slapping against the wet stones. When she reached him, she grabbed his arm, feeling solid muscle beneath the fabric of his coat. "Please," she gasped, her voice barely above a whisper. "Please, I need you to pretend to be my boyfriend. Just for a few minutes. Please." The man's head tilted slightly. Maya still couldn't see his face clearly, but she felt the weight of his gaze, assessing, calculating. His voice, when he spoke, was quiet and impossibly calm. "Who are you running from?" "My ex." Maya's words tumbled out in a rush. "He's dangerous. He's been following me for months. If he finds me alone, I don't know what he'll..." The footsteps entered the alley. Derek's voice cut through the rain like a blade. "Maya, I know you're here. Stop playing games." The stranger's hand moved, covering hers where it gripped his arm. His skin was cold, far colder than the rain should have made it, but his touch was gentle. "Look at me," he said quietly. Maya raised her eyes. The lamplight finally caught his face, and her breath stopped for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. He was beautiful in a way that didn't seem quite human. Sharp cheekbones, a strong jaw, eyes so dark they looked black in the dim light. His hair was wet from the rain, falling across his forehead in dark waves. There was something ancient in his face, something that suggested he'd seen centuries pass like heartbeats. "Trust me," he said, "and follow my lead." Before Maya could respond, he pulled her against him, one arm sliding around her waist, the other hand coming up to cradle the back of her head. His movements were smooth, practiced, as if he'd done this 1,000 times before. Then his lips were near her ear, his breath cool against her skin. "When he comes, act like we've been here together all along." Derek's footsteps stopped. "Maya," his voice was sharp now, angry. "What the hell is this?" The stranger turned slowly, keeping Maya tucked against his side. His entire demeanor changed. The quiet stillness transformed into something that radiated authority, the kind of power that didn't need to announce itself. "Can I help you?" His voice was different now, colder, with an edge that made the rain seem warm by comparison. Derek stood at the alley's entrance, his expensive suit already soaked through, his handsome face, the one that charmed everyone from his family's board members to the society reporters, twisted with rage. "Maya, get away from him. Now." The stranger's arm tightened around Maya's waist, protective rather than possessive. "The lady doesn't seem interested in leaving. I suggest you move along." Derek took a step forward, his hands clenched into fists. "Do you have any idea who I am? My family owns half this city. I could destroy you with one phone call." The stranger didn't move. Didn't even blink. Interesting. He paused, and Maya felt something shift in the air around them, a pressure that made her ears pop. I wonder what your family would think if they knew you spent your evenings stalking women through back alleys. Derek's face flushed red. You don't know what you're talking about. Maya is my girlfriend. She's confused, upset. She needs help. She's not your anything, the stranger said quietly. And she's asked you to leave. I recommend you do so. I'm not leaving without her, Derek snarled, taking another step forward. That's when Maya saw it. Fear, sudden and sharp, flashing across Derek's face. He'd stopped moving, his entire body rigid, staring at the stranger with an expression that looked almost like recognition. Or perhaps, more accurately, realization. The stranger tilted his head slightly. The gesture was almost curious, like a predator studying prey. You should know, his voice dropped lower, that I have very little patience for men who hurt women, and even less for those who refuse to listen when they're told to leave. Derek's mouth opened and closed. No sound came out. The color drained from his face, leaving him pale as chalk. He took a stumbling step backward, then another. This isn't over, he finally managed, but his voice shook. Stay away from her, the stranger said. It wasn't a request. It was a command, spoken with such absolute certainty that Derek flinched. If I see you near her again, you won't enjoy the consequences. Derek turned and ran. Actually ran, his expensive shoes splashing through puddles, his breathing ragged and panicked. Maya watched him disappear around the corner, her mind struggling to process what had just happened. Derek Montgomery, who'd terrorized her for months, who'd laughed when she'd threatened to call the police, who'd told her no one would ever believe her over him, had just fled like a frightened child. The stranger's arm loosened around her waist, but he didn't step away. Are you hurt? His voice was gentle again, the cold authority gone. Maya shook her head, not trusting her voice. The adrenaline that had been keeping her upright drained away all at once, leaving her legs weak and trembling. The stranger must have felt it because his arm tightened again, steadying her. When did you last eat? The question was so unexpected that Maya actually laughed, though it came out more like a sob. Maybe yesterday? The day before? He made a sound that might have been disapproval. Come. There's a cafe 2 streets over. We should get you out of the rain. Maya knew she should refuse, should thank him and walk away, should not follow a complete stranger to a secondary location, no matter how much he'd just helped her. But something about him, maybe the gentleness in his voice or the way he'd stood between her and Derek without hesitation, made her feel safer than she'd felt in months. Okay, she whispered. They walked through the rain in silence. The cafe was small and warm, tucked between a bookstore and a vintage clothing shop. String lights hung across the ceiling like captured stars, and the smell of coffee and fresh bread wrapped around Maya like a blanket. The stranger guided her to a corner booth, far from the windows and the few other late-night patrons. He draped his coat over the back of his chair and signaled the waitress with a subtle gesture. His movements were economical, precise, as if he'd learned long ago not to waste motion. In the cafe's light, Maya could see him properly for the first time. He looked young, perhaps 30, but something about his eyes suggested otherwise. They were the color of midnight, deep and endless, and when they met hers, she felt like he could see through skin and bone, straight to her soul. 2 coffees, he told the waitress, and whatever food you can bring quickly. She needs to eat. The waitress, an older woman with kind eyes and silver streaking through her dark hair, took one look at Maya's soaked dress and pale face and nodded. I'll bring soup and bread. And a blanket. When she left, the stranger turned his attention back to Maya. His gaze was steady, but not invasive, patient in a way that suggested he had all the time in the world. What's your name? Maya, she said quietly. Maya Chen. He nodded once, as if her name confirmed something he'd already guessed. I'm Lucien. Just Lucien? Most people have last names. He smiled slightly, and Maya's breath caught. The expression transformed his face from beautiful to devastating. I've had many names over the years. Lucien is the one I prefer now. Before Maya could puzzle through what that meant, the waitress returned with a thick wool blanket, 2 steaming mugs, and a promise that food was coming. Maya wrapped the blanket around her shoulders, feeling the warmth seep into her bones. Lucien watched her over the rim of his coffee cup, not drinking, just holding it. Thank you, Maya said finally. For back there. For this. You didn't have to help me. He set down his cup. The movement was careful, deliberate. No one should have to beg for help to escape someone who's hurt them. Derek, your ex, how long has he been following you? 3 months since I left, Maya said. Her hands wrapped around her own mug, drawing comfort from the heat. 6 months before when we were, she couldn't finish the sentence. Lucien's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Understanding, maybe. Or anger on her behalf. He hurt you. It wasn't a question. Maya nodded. Her throat felt tight. He was different at first. Charming. Generous. Then little things started. Comments about my clothes, my friends, where I went. Then he started getting angry, throwing things. And then she stopped, unable to continue. The soup arrived, rich and steaming, with thick slices of bread still warm from the oven. Lucien pushed the bowl toward her. Eat. You need your strength. Maya obeyed, surprised by how hungry she actually was. The first spoonful of soup tasted like heaven, and she realized she couldn't remember the last real meal she'd had. When you ran 3 months ago, Lucien said quietly. Where did you go? Everywhere. Maya set down her spoon. I had some money saved. I went to my cousin's house first, but Derek found me there. Then a friend's apartment. He found me there too. I've been staying in shelters, cheap motels, anywhere I thought he couldn't track me. But he always does. His family has money, connections. He probably has people looking for me. Lucien was quiet for a long moment, watching her with those ancient eyes. And the police? Maya laughed bitterly. Derek's father plays golf with the police commissioner. His mother sits on half the charity boards in the city. The one time I tried to report him, they took my statement and filed it away. Derek's lawyer called me the next day, suggesting I was confused, possibly unstable, definitely not credible against someone of his standing. She took another spoonful of soup, forcing it past the lump in her throat. I'm nobody. A waitress who dropped out of art school. My parents died when I was young. No family except my cousin, who has her own problems. Derek knew exactly what he was doing when he chose me. No one who would be believed. No one who would be missed. Lucien's hands, which had been resting on the table, curled into fists. The movement was subtle, controlled, but Maya saw the tension in his shoulders, the way his jaw tightened. That ends now, he said quietly. Maya looked up, confused. What? You won't be running anymore. You'll stay with me. The words were so unexpected that Maya actually laughed. Stay with you? I don't even know you. You could be worse than Derek. I'm not, Lucien said simply, and you know that already, or you wouldn't have approached me in the alley. You would have kept running. He was right, and Maya knew it. Something in her gut, some instinct that had kept her alive this long, had recognized safety when she'd seen him standing in the shadows. But accepting help from a stranger was insane. I can't just move in with someone I met an hour ago, she protested. Why not? Derek knows all your usual haunts, all your friends and family. But he doesn't know me. Maya stared at him. Are you serious? Completely. Lucien leaned forward slightly. His eyes held hers. I have a large house with secure grounds, multiple rooms. You would have your own space, your own privacy. and Derek Montgomery wouldn't dare set foot there. Why would you do this? Maya's voice was barely a whisper. You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. Lucian was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft, almost sad. Let's say I have experience with people who abuse power. People who hurt those weaker than themselves because they enjoy it. Because they can. And let's say I've made it something of a personal mission to stop such people when I encounter them. Maya searched his face, looking for deception, for hidden motives. She found only sincerity, and something that looked like old pain, carefully buried. What's the catch? She asked. No catch, Lucian said. You stay as long as you need. When you're ready to leave, you leave. No obligations, no expectations beyond basic courtesy. Maya wanted to say no. Every rational part of her brain screamed that this was a terrible idea. But the alternative was going back to the shelters, to the constant looking over her shoulder, to the bone-deep exhaustion of never feeling safe. And something about Lucian, about the way he'd stood between her and Derek without hesitation, about the quiet certainty in his voice when he'd told Derek to leave, made her want to trust him. 1 week, she heard herself say. I'll try it for 1 week. If it feels wrong, I leave. No questions asked. Agreed, Lucian extended his hand across the table. Maya hesitated, then took it. His skin was cold again, that unnatural chill she'd noticed in the alley, but his grip was gentle. They shook once, formally, like sealing a business contract. When Maya released his hand, she realized the waitress was watching them from behind the counter, a small smile on her face. The older woman caught Maya's eye and nodded slightly, as if approving the arrangement. Finish your soup, Lucian said, sitting back. My car is outside. We'll collect whatever belongings you have, then go to the house. Maya ate mechanically, her mind racing. She'd just agreed to move in with a complete stranger. A beautiful, mysterious stranger who'd somehow frightened Derek Montgomery into running away, who spoke like someone from another century, whose skin was cold as winter despite the warm calf. A stranger who'd offered help without asking for anything in return, which in Maya's experience meant he either wanted something he wasn't saying, or he was genuinely one of the rarest things in the world, a good person. She would find out which soon enough. Outside, the rain had slowed to a gentle mist. Lucian's car was a sleek black sedan, expensive but understated. He opened the passenger door for her. Another old-fashioned gesture that should have seemed strange but somehow felt natural coming from him. Where are your things? He asked as he slid into the driver's seat. A storage unit across town, Maya said. Everything I own fits in 3 boxes. Lucian started the car. The engine purred to life, smooth and quiet. Then, we'll collect them. His voice was matter of fact. As if this was perfectly normal. As if he helped desperate women escape their abusers every night. As they drove through the city's rain-slicked streets, Maya watched the lights blur past her window and wondered what she'd just agreed to. And why, despite everything, she felt safer than she had in months. Lucian's house wasn't a house at all. It was an estate. The iron gates opened automatically as they approached, revealing a long driveway lined with ancient oak trees. The main building rose from manicured grounds, like something from another era, all stone and tall windows and architecture that spoke of centuries rather than decades. Maya pressed her face against the car window, her 3 boxes of belongings suddenly feeling even more inadequate. You live here? Alone? Mostly, Lucian pulled the car into a circular drive. There's a groundskeeper who comes during the day, and a woman who manages the household staff. But at night, yes, I'm usually alone. He came around to open her door before she could reach for the handle. The gesture was automatic, ingrained, and Maya realized she was starting to notice these small courtesies. The door opened on silent hinges. Inside, the house was warm despite its size, lit by lamps that cast golden pools of light across polished wood floors and walls lined with books and art. A grand staircase curved upward to the second floor, and Maya caught glimpses of rooms branching off in multiple directions, each one looking like it belonged in a museum. Lucien led her up the stairs, carrying her boxes as if they weighed nothing. He'd insisted on taking them from the storage unit himself, waving off her protests with quiet efficiency. "Your room is this way," he said, leading her down a hallway lined with portraits. Maya glanced at the paintings as they passed, faces from different eras staring down at her with solemn expressions. At the end of the hall, Lucien opened a door and stepped aside. The room was beautiful. A large bed with a dark wooden frame dominated one wall, covered in soft-looking blankets. Tall windows overlooked the grounds, and a door led to what looked like a private bathroom. Bookshelves lined another wall, filled with leather-bound volumes. A writing desk sat near the window, complete with paper and pens arranged just so. It was the nicest room Maya had ever seen, let alone stayed in. "I can't," she started. But Lucien cut her off. "You can, and you will." He set her boxes on the bed. "The bathroom is through there. You'll find everything you need, towels, toiletries, anything I've missed. Just ask." He moved toward the door, then paused. "I'm usually in my study at night. It's the third door on the left, downstairs. If you need anything, you'll find me there." "Lucien," Maya's voice stopped him. "Why are you really doing this?" He turned, his dark eyes meeting hers. The lamplight cast shadows across his face, making him look both young and impossibly old. "Because everyone deserves to feel safe," he said quietly. "And because I've seen too many people suffer at the hands of those who abuse power. If I can prevent even a small amount of that suffering, I will." It wasn't a complete answer, Maya knew that. But something in his voice, in the way his hands curled slightly at his sides when he spoke about abused power, told her there was a story there. A painful one. "Good night, Maya," Lucien said. "Rest. You're safe here." Then he was gone, the door closing softly behind him. Maya stood in the center of the beautiful room, her wet dress still clinging to her skin, and felt tears prick her eyes. When was the last time someone had told her she was safe and meant it? When was the last time she'd slept without one ear listening for footsteps in the hall, without her phone clutched in her hand ready to call for help that would never come? She unpacked her meager belongings, hanging the few clothes she owned in a closet that could have held 100 outfits. Then she showered in the marble bathroom, letting hot water wash away not just the rain but months of fear and exhaustion. The towels were thick and soft. The soap smelled like lavender. When she finally crawled into bed, the sheets felt like clouds against her skin. Maya meant to stay awake, to keep watch, to maintain some level of vigilance, but the moment her head hit the pillow, she fell into sleep like falling into deep water, dark and dreamless and complete. She woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and the smell of fresh coffee drifting up from somewhere below. For a moment, she couldn't remember where she was. Then it came back. The alley. Derek. Lucien. The impossible offer. Maya dressed quickly in clean clothes from her boxes and ventured downstairs. She found Lucien in a sun-filled breakfast room, reading a newspaper that looked like it might be 100 years old. He'd changed clothes, trading the dark coat for a simple black shirt and dark pants. In the daylight, he looked even more striking, and Maya felt suddenly self-conscious about her bargain store jeans and faded sweater. "Good morning," Lucien set down the paper. "Did you sleep well?" "Better than I have in months," Maya admitted. She gestured to the coffee pot on the sideboard. "May I?" "Please." Lucien stood and pulled out a chair for her. Mrs. Chen, the household manager, left breakfast. She comes in early, leaves around noon. You won't see her often, she's very discreet. As if on cue, a woman appeared in the doorway. She was perhaps 60, with silver hair pulled back in a neat bun and sharp eyes that assessed Maya in one quick glance. "Mrs. Chen," Lucien said. This is Maya. She'll be staying with us for a while." The older woman's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes softened. "Welcome, Miss Maya. I've set out eggs and toast. If you prefer something else, you need only ask." "Thank you," Maya said, feeling overwhelmed by the simple kindness. Mrs. Chen nodded and disappeared as quietly as she'd come. Maya fixed herself a plate, surprised by how hungry she was. Lucian returned to his paper, giving her space to eat in comfortable silence. It was only when she'd finished her second cup of coffee that Maya noticed something odd. Lucian's cup sat in front of him, full and steaming, but he hadn't taken a single sip. "You're not eating," she observed. "I ate earlier," he said smoothly. Too smoothly. "But please help yourself to anything you'd like." Maya studied him over the rim of her cup. In the daylight, she could see details she'd missed before. His skin was pale, almost luminescent. His movements, when he turned the pages of his newspaper, were unnaturally graceful, and his eyes, they were too dark, too deep, as if they held centuries of secrets. "What do you do?" she asked. "For work, I mean. How do you afford all this?" "Investments," Lucian said. "I've had time to make wise choices." Time, the word hung in the air between them. "How much time?" Maya heard herself ask. Lucian looked up from his paper. For a long moment he just watched her, and Maya had the sense he was deciding something. Weighing options. Calculating risks. "Enough to know that some patterns repeat themselves throughout history," he said finally. "The powerful preying on the weak, the cruel hiding behind respectability. Some things never change no matter how many centuries pass." "Centuries," Maya repeated softly. Lucian set down his paper. His dark eyes held hers. "You're an observant woman, Maya. I imagine you've already noticed certain things about me. That my skin is cold, that I don't eat or drink in your presence, that I seem more comfortable in darkness than light." Maya's heart began to beat faster, but strangely, she didn't feel afraid. She felt curious. "What are you?" "I think you already know," Lucian said quietly. Maya took a breath. "You're a vampire." Yes, the word fell between them like a stone into still water, creating ripples that spread outward. Maya waited for fear to kick in, for logic to tell her to run. But instead, she felt pieces clicking into place. The way Derek had looked at Lucian with sudden recognition and terror. The cold skin. The ancient quality to his voice and mannerisms. Maya should have been terrified. Every instinct should have screamed at her to run, to get as far away as possible from the creature sitting across the breakfast table. But instead, she found herself asking, "How old are you?" 347 years, Lucian answered, give or take a decade. I stopped keeping precise track after the first century. 347 years. Maya tried to wrap her mind around it. He'd been alive when her great-great-great-grandparents were children. He'd seen empires rise and fall. He'd lived through wars and revolutions and transformations that she'd only read about in history books. "And you drink blood," she said. It wasn't a question. But Lucian nodded anyway. "I do." "From humans?" "Sometimes." He must have seen something in her face because he quickly added, "Never without consent. And never enough to harm. There are donors. People who know what I am and agree to help. I pay them well for their time and discretion." Maya processed this. "So you're telling me vampires are real, they walk among us, and they have a whole donor system set up?" A small smile touched Lucian's lips. "The world is stranger than most people realize. Vampires, yes. Other things, too. We've learned to adapt, to blend in. Those of us who wish to live peacefully anyway." "And the ones who don't wish to live peacefully?" Maya asked. Lucian's expression darkened. "Those are dealt with. We have our own laws, our own justice system. We police our own because we must. Humans would destroy us if they knew we existed, and rightfully so if they judged us by our worst members. He paused. Which brings me to something I should tell you. Last night, when I helped you, it wasn't entirely altruistic. Maya's stomach tightened. Here it comes, she thought. The catch. I knew what Derek was the moment I saw him. Lucian continued. Not vampire, but something just as dangerous. A predator who uses wealth and power and social standing to hurt people weaker than himself. I've encountered his kind many times over the centuries. They're the reason I stay involved in human affairs when most of my kind retreat from your world entirely. You hunt people like Derek? Maya asked. When necessary, Lucian said. Though hunt is perhaps too strong a word. I intervene. I protect. I use my resources and my nature to level playing fields that are unfairly tilted. Derek Montgomery has been on my radar for some time. Multiple women, all from vulnerable backgrounds, all with stories similar to yours. None willing to testify, all too frightened or convinced no one would believe them. So you were following him, Maya said slowly. Not me. Lucian met her gaze steadily. I was following him. You approaching me was coincidence, though a fortunate one. It gave me an excuse to intervene more directly than I might have otherwise. Maya sat back in her chair, her coffee forgotten. So this whole thing, bringing me here, keeping me safe, it's part of some larger plan to stop Derek? No, Lucian said firmly. That's genuine. You need safety, I can provide it. The fact that it also serves my purposes is secondary. And what exactly are your purposes? To ensure Derek Montgomery never hurts anyone again. Lucian's voice was cold now, the warmth completely gone. To make certain he understands there are consequences for his actions, even for someone of his wealth and standing. To show him that he's not untouchable. Maya should have been disturbed by the threat in Lucian's voice. Instead, she felt a savage satisfaction bloom in her chest. Good, she said. Lucian's eyebrows rose slightly. You're not afraid? Of you? Maya shook her head. You've had multiple opportunities to hurt me. You haven't. You've been nothing but kind and respectful. Derek, on the other hand, spent months terrorizing me while everyone around him smiled and shook his hand at charity galas. So no, I'm not afraid of you. I'm afraid of him. Lucian studied her for a long moment. You're remarkably calm about discovering vampires are real. Maya laughed, though there was little humor in it. My ex-boyfriend stalked me across 3 states, broke into my apartment, and convinced the police I was the unstable one. Finding out vampires exist barely makes the top 10 strangest things to happen to me this year. Fair point, Lucian allowed. They sat in silence for a moment, the morning light streaming through the windows creating patterns on the floor. Maya watched dust motes dance in the sunbeams and noticed that Lucian carefully avoided those bright patches of light. Can you go out in sunlight? She asked. I can, Lucian said. It's uncomfortable, and I'm weaker during the day, but I won't burst into flames or turn to ash. Most of the old myths are exaggerated. We're harder to kill than humans. We heal faster. We're stronger and faster. But we're not invincible. Silver? Crosses? Garlic? Lucian actually laughed. Garlic is simply unpleasant, like it is for anyone. Crosses have no effect. Silver. He held up his hand, showing a silver ring on his finger. Perfectly harmless. Stakes through the heart will kill us. But that's true for any creature with a cardiovascular system. Decapitation works too. Maya found herself smiling despite everything. This is the weirdest conversation I've ever had. Lucian's expression softened. I imagine so. If you want to leave, I'll understand. I can arrange for you to stay somewhere else. Somewhere Derek won't find you. I'll still ensure your safety. Maya considered. She should leave. Should put distance between herself and the supernatural. But Lucian had been honest with her when he could have kept lying. He'd shown her respect when he could have used his power over her. And despite everything, she felt safer in this house with a vampire than she'd felt anywhere in months. I'll stay, she said. At least for now. But I have questions. Ask, Lucian said. So many. Maya leaned forward. First, if you're 300 years old, why do you care about humans at all? Why not just, I don't know, live in a castle somewhere and avoid all of us? I tried that for the first century, Lucian said. It was lonely and pointless. Humans are endlessly fascinating, even the cruel ones, perhaps especially the cruel ones, because understanding cruelty helps me fight it. He paused, and I was human once, long ago. I remember what it felt like to be powerless, to be at the mercy of those stronger than me. I swore when I became this that I would never forget that feeling. What happened to you? Maya asked gently. Lucian was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was distant. I was a soldier, impressed into service for a lord I'd never met. We were sent to fight in a war over land and titles, things that meant nothing to people like me. I was 17, barely old enough to grow a beard. He stared at his hands. I watched my friends die. I watched villages burn. I watched powerful men send powerless ones to their deaths and call it glory. When I was turned, it was by accident, a vampire feeding on the battlefield wounded. But I survived, and I decided that if I had to live forever, I would spend that time stopping powerful people from hurting those who couldn't fight back. Maya spent the next 3 days in a strange new routine. She woke late, after Lucian had already retreated to whatever part of the house he spent his daylight hours. Mrs. Chen left breakfast, and then made herself scarce. Maya explored the grounds, walked through the library, tried to make sense of her new reality. At night, Lucian would appear in the study or the library, and they would talk, sometimes about Derek and the plan to stop him, more often about other things, art and history and music, and the 1,000 small details of living for centuries. Lucian was an excellent conversationalist, and Maya found herself looking forward to their evening discussions more than she wanted to admit. On the 4th night, she found him in the library, surrounded by old manuscripts. She'd been sketching, something she hadn't done in months, her creativity slowly returning in the safety of the house. "You drew this?" Lucian asked when she showed him her work, a charcoal sketch of the oak trees lining the driveway. "It's beautiful. It's rusty," Maya said. "I used to be better. Before Derek. Before everything." Lucian studied the drawing with serious attention. "I see skill here. Talent. The kind that comes from seeing the world clearly, without filters." Maya felt heat rise to her cheeks. "You don't have to be nice." "I'm not being nice," Lucian said. "I'm being honest. I've seen enough art over 3 centuries to recognize the real thing." He stood and crossed to one of the shelves, pulling down a leather portfolio. "Come here." Inside the portfolio were drawings, dozens of them, in styles that spanned centuries. Lucian explained each one, who had drawn it, when, why it mattered. He spoke about art with the passion of someone who'd lived through its evolution, who'd watched techniques develop and change and revolutionize how humans saw the world. "You really love this," Maya said. "All of it. The art, the history. I love what it represents," Lucian said softly. "Human creativity. The need to make beautiful things even in ugly times. It's one of your species' best qualities." "My species," Maya repeated. "As opposed to yours. We're not so different," Lucian said. "We want the same things. Connection. Purpose. To leave the world better than we found it. We just have different amounts of time to accomplish it." Maya set down the portfolio. "Can I ask you something personal?" Lucian nodded. "In 300 years, she said carefully. Have you had relationships with humans?" Lucian's expression became guarded. "I have." "And?" "They end," Lucian said simply. "Always. Either through death or through the realization that I'll stay young while they age. It's one of the cruelties of immortality. You watch everyone you love disappear." "That sounds lonely," Maya said. "It is," Lucian admitted, "which is why I stopped allowing myself to love anyone a long time ago. It's easier to care from a distance, to help without becoming attached. Safer for everyone involved." Is that why you're helping me? Maya asked. Because it's safe? Because I'm just another human who will eventually disappear from your life? Lucian's eyes met hers, and Maya saw something flicker there. Something that looked like pain. I'm helping you because it's right, he said quietly. Because Derek Montgomery deserves to face consequences. Because you deserve to live without fear. His voice dropped lower, and because despite my best intentions, I'm finding it increasingly difficult to maintain that distance I mentioned. Maya's breath caught. Lucian, The sound of breaking glass interrupted her. It came from somewhere downstairs, sharp and violent. Lucian was on his feet instantly, moving with that inhuman speed Maya had glimpsed before. Stay here, he commanded, his voice different now, harder. Lock the door behind me. But Maya saw his expression, saw the tension in his shoulders, and fear bloomed in her chest. It's Derek, isn't it? He found me. Lucian didn't answer, which was answer enough. He was already moving toward the door when Maya grabbed his arm. Don't go alone. Please. I'll be fine, Lucian said. I've dealt with worse than Derek Montgomery. But he's dangerous, Maya insisted. He has a gun. I saw him buy it before I ran. He said if he couldn't have me. She couldn't finish. Lucian's hand covered hers where it gripped his arm. His skin was cold, but his touch was gentle. Maya, listen to me. I am 347 years old. I have survived wars and plagues and the worst that humanity has to offer. Derek Montgomery does not frighten me. What frightens me is the thought of him hurting you. So please, stay here. Let me handle this. He left before she could argue further. Maya heard his footsteps disappearing down the hallway, silent and swift. She should have listened, should have locked the door like he'd told her. But she'd spent months being afraid, months running and hiding, and suddenly she was tired of it. Tired of letting Derek control her life through fear. She crept down the hallway, staying in the shadows the way Lucian had taught her during one of their evening conversations, about moving quietly, about not being seen, about survival skills he'd picked up over centuries. The stairs were dark, but Maya could see light coming from the front hall. She heard voices, Derek's familiar and hateful, Lucian's calm and cold. You can't keep her from me, Derek was saying. His voice was slurred, drunk or high, or both. She's mine. I made her. I can break her. Nobody takes what's mine. Maya reached the bottom of the stairs and peered around the corner. Derek stood in the entrance hall, swaying slightly. He held a gun in one hand, pointed at Lucian. The vampire stood perfectly still, hands loose at his sides, seemingly unconcerned about the weapon aimed at his chest. She's not yours, Lucian said quietly. She never was. You don't own people, Derek, no matter what your money and family name have taught you to believe. Derek laughed, ugly and harsh. And who are you? Her new boyfriend? Some charity case she picked up to make me jealous? It won't work. She always comes back. They always come back. Not this time, Lucian said. Derek's finger tightened on the trigger. I'll kill you. I'll kill both of you. No one takes what belongs to me. You're welcome to try, Lucian said. His voice was still calm, but Maya heard something underneath it now. Something ancient and dangerous and utterly without fear. Though I should warn you, bullets are remarkably ineffective against me. Derek fired. The sound exploded through the entrance hall, deafening in the enclosed space. Maya's scream caught in her throat as she watched the bullet hit Lucian square in the chest. He staggered backward, his hand coming up to the wound. For one terrible moment, Maya thought she'd been wrong to trust him, wrong to believe he was different, wrong to think anything could stop Derek. Then Lucian straightened. His hand fell away from his chest, and Maya saw the bullet hole in his shirt, saw the flesh beneath already knitting itself together. Lucian's eyes, when he raised them to Derek, were no longer dark brown. They were solid black, reflecting no light, showing no mercy. "My turn," Lucian said. He moved. 1 second he was 10 feet away from Derek. The next he had the gun in his hand, crushed into twisted metal that he dropped carelessly to the floor. Derek stumbled backward, his face pale, his bravado crumbling into raw terror. "What are you?" "Monster," Lucian said softly. "Demon. Vampire. I've been called many things over the centuries, but what I am right now is very, very angry." He didn't touch Derek. Didn't have to. His presence alone seemed to fill the hall, oppressive and overwhelming. Maya could feel it from where she stood, the weight of his power, the promise of violence barely contained. "You've spent months terrorizing an innocent woman," Lucian continued. His voice was soft, conversational, which somehow made it more frightening. "You used your wealth and connections to hunt her like prey. You hurt her. You made her afraid to sleep, afraid to exist. And when she finally escaped, you followed." Derek tried to run. He made it 3 steps before Lucian was in front of him, moving faster than Maya's eyes could follow. The vampire's hand shot out, gripping Derek's throat, lifting him off the ground with casual strength. "I could kill you," Lucian said. "It would be easy. Snap your neck, drain your blood, make you disappear so completely your family would spend years searching. And part of me wants to. The part that remembers being human, being powerless, being at the mercy of men like you." Derek made a choking sound, his hands clawing uselessly at Lucian's grip. "Please," he gasped. "I'm sorry. I'll leave her alone. I swear." "You're only sorry because you're caught," Lucian said. "Because for the first time in your privileged life, you're facing someone stronger than you, someone who won't be intimidated by your family name, or your money, or your lawyers." "How does it feel, Derek? To be powerless?" "Terrible," Derek wheezed. Tears streamed down his face. "Please, I'll do anything." Lucian held him there for another moment, then dropped him. Derek crumpled to the floor, gasping and sobbing. "Good," Lucian said. "Because here's what you're going to do. You're going to leave this city tonight. You're going to tell your family you need time away, need to travel, need to find yourself, whatever excuse spoiled rich boys use when they run from consequences. And you're never coming back." "But this is my home," Derek protested weakly. "Not anymore." Lucian crouched down, bringing himself eye level with the trembling man. "If I ever hear that you've contacted Maya, if I ever hear that you've hurt another woman, if I ever see your face in this city again, I will kill you. Slowly, painfully, and I will make sure your family knows exactly why you died. Do you understand?" Derek nodded frantically. Lucian stood. "There's more. You have a considerable trust fund, money you did nothing to earn. You're going to set up an anonymous donation system. Every month, a portion of that money will go to domestic violence shelters and women's support organizations throughout the city. You'll do this for the rest of your life." "I can't," Derek started. "My family will ask questions." "Then lie," Lucian said coldly. "You're good at that. Tell them it's for tax purposes. Tell them it's a charity your therapist recommended. Tell them anything you want, but the money will flow, every month without fail, or I will know, and I will come for you." "How will you know?" Derek asked. Lucian smiled, and there was nothing human in the expression. "I'm 347 years old, Derek. I have resources you can't imagine. I'll know. Now get out of my house." Derek scrambled to his feet and ran. He didn't look back, didn't grab for the twisted remains of his gun, just fled into the night like the coward he'd always been. The front door slammed behind him, and silence fell over the entrance hall. Maya stepped out from the shadows. Her hands were shaking, her heart racing, but not from fear, from relief so intense it made her dizzy. Lucian turned to her. The blackness in his eyes faded, replaced by his normal dark brown. His expression was carefully neutral, but she could see tension in his shoulders, uncertainty in the way he didn't move toward her. "I told you to stay upstairs," he said quietly. "I don't take orders well," Maya replied. She crossed the hall, closing the distance between them. Her eyes went to his chest, to the torn fabric of his shirt where the bullet had struck. "Are you hurt?" "It's already healed," Lucian said. "Bullets aren't particularly effective against my kind, as I mentioned. Silver bullets would slow me down. Wooden stakes through the heart would kill me. But regular ammunition just hurts for a moment. Then, we heal." Maya reached out slowly, giving him time to move away if he wanted. When he didn't, she placed her hand over his heart, feeling the steady beat beneath her palm, slower than a human's. "But there, you were shot," she said. "He could have killed you." "He couldn't have," Lucian said. "But your concern is noted." Maya looked up at him. "You let him go?" Lucian nodded. "I wanted to kill him. Very much. But that would make me like him. Using power to destroy someone weaker. This way, Derek lives with his fear. He spends the rest of his life looking over his shoulder, wondering if I'm watching. And at least some good comes from his money." "That's mercy," Maya said. "Perhaps," Lucian allowed. "Or perhaps it's just pragmatism. Dead men can't donate to women's shelters." They stood there in the quiet hall, Maya's hand still resting over Lucian's heart. Neither of them moving. The adrenaline was fading from Maya's system, leaving behind a different kind of awareness. She was acutely conscious of how close they were, of the cool silk of his shirt beneath her fingers, of the way he was looking at her with those ancient eyes that had seen so much but still seemed to see her clearly. "Thank you," she said softly. "For protecting me. For believing me. For making sure I never have to be afraid of him again." "You don't need to thank me," Lucian said. "Yes, I do," Maya insisted, "because not many people would have done what you did. Most people would have looked the other way, would have decided it wasn't their problem. You didn't." Lucian's hand came up, covering hers where it rested on his chest. "I told you before, I remember what it's like to be powerless. I meant it." The days after Derek's banishment fell into a new rhythm. Maya no longer jumped at unexpected sounds. She slept through the night, without nightmares. She started drawing again, filling sketchbook after sketchbook with images of the house, the grounds, and increasingly, with studies of Lucian's face when he thought she wasn't watching. They didn't talk about that moment in the entrance hall, about how close they'd stood or how neither of them had wanted to move away, but something had shifted between them, an awareness that hummed in the air whenever they were in the same room. Maya caught Lucian watching her sometimes, his expression unguarded for just a moment before he remembered himself and looked away. She wondered what he saw when he looked at her, if he saw just another temporary human passing through his immortal existence, or something more. A week after Derek fled, Mrs. Chen approached Maya in the garden where she'd been sketching. "Miss Maya," the older woman said, "may I speak with you?" "Of course." Maya set down her pencil. Mrs. Chen settled onto the bench beside her, her movements careful and deliberate. "I've worked for Mr. Lucian for 20 years, she said. "Since my husband died and I needed employment, he took me in without hesitation, gave me work, gave me purpose. He's a good man." Maya nodded, unsure where this was going. "I've seen others come and go over the years," Mrs. Chen continued. "People he's helped. Some stay a few days, some a few months. All of them leave eventually. He never asks them to stay, never tries to keep them." Her eyes, sharp and knowing, met Maya's. "But I've never seen him look at any of them the way he looks at you." Maya's breath caught. "How does he look at me?" "Like he's forgotten how to be careful," Mrs. Chen said simply. Like he's letting himself want something he's spent centuries avoiding. Like he's falling in love and terrified of it. Before Maya could respond, Mrs. Chen stood. I don't tell you this to influence your choices, child. Only to give you information you might not have. What you do with it is your own decision. She left Maya sitting in the garden, her mind spinning. That night, Maya found Lucian in the study. He was reading by lamplight, a book that looked older than most countries. When she entered, he looked up and smiled, the expression transforming his usually serious face. Can't sleep? He asked. Maya shook her head. I wanted to talk to you. About what? About us, Maya said. About what happens next. Lucian set down his book carefully. His expression became guarded. What do you mean? Derek is gone, Maya said. She moved into the room, perching on the edge of a chair across from him. I'm safe, which means I don't have a reason to stay here anymore. I see. Lucian's voice was carefully neutral. When are you planning to leave? That's the thing, Maya said. I don't want to leave. Lucian went very still. Maya, I want to stay. Maya continued. Not because I'm afraid. Not because I need protection. Because She stopped, searching for the right words. Because in the weeks I've been here, I've been happier than I've been in years. Because talking to you is the best part of my day. Because when I think about leaving, about not seeing you anymore, I feel like I'm losing something important. You don't know what you're saying, Lucian said softly. Yes, I do, Maya insisted. I know you're vampire. I know you're going to stay young while I age. I know this can't be forever, because I'm human, and you're immortal. But that doesn't mean we can't have now. You deserve more than now, Lucian said. His hands gripped the arms of his chair. You deserve someone who can give you a normal life. Children if you want them. Growing old together. All the things humans are supposed to have. What if I don't want normal? Maya asked. What if I want you? Lucian closed his eyes. Maya, please. I've spent 3 centuries building walls to protect myself from exactly this. From caring too much. From losing people I love. I can't. His voice broke. I can't watch you die. I'm going to die eventually whether you watch or not, Maya said gently. That's part of being human. But I'd rather spend whatever time I have living fully than running from something real because I'm afraid of the ending. You don't understand. Lucian opened his eyes, and Maya saw raw pain there. I've lost so many people. Friends. Lovers. Everyone I've cared about turns to dust while I remain. It never gets easier. The grief never fades. I carry 300 years of loss inside me, and I won't add you to that weight. Even if it means you're happier while I'm alive? Maya asked. Even then, Lucian said, because I'm selfish enough that I'd rather have you leave now, while I can pretend you chose to go, than watch you wither and die and know I couldn't save you. Maya stood. She crossed to his chair and knelt beside it, taking his cold hands in her warm ones. Lucian, look at me. He did. Reluctantly. You're not selfish, Maya said. You're scared, and I understand that. But you can't protect yourself from pain by refusing to feel anything good. That's not living. That's just existing. I've been existing for a very long time, Lucian whispered. Maybe it's time to try something else. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. She leaned forward slowly, giving him time to pull away. Time to refuse. He didn't. When her lips met his hands came up to cradle her face with infinite gentleness. The kiss was soft, careful, as if he was afraid she might break. Maya could feel the restraint in it, centuries of control keeping him from taking more than she offered. When they finally pulled apart, Lucian rested his forehead against hers. This is a terrible idea, he murmured. Probably, Maya agreed. We're going to get hurt, almost certainly. But Maya's hands tightened on his. But maybe it will be worth it, Lucian pulled back enough to look at her properly. His eyes searched her face. "If we do this," he said carefully, "you need to understand what it means. I can't make you immortal. I can't give you forever. All I have is now, and however many years you have left, and the absolute certainty that losing you will destroy me. Then we'll make the most of now," Maya said, "and we'll face the rest when it comes." Lucian kissed her again, deeper this time, with less restraint. When he finally pulled away, he stood and drew her to her feet. "Stay," he said. It wasn't a question exactly, but it wasn't quite a command either. Something in between, a request and a plea and a hope. "I already told you I wasn't leaving," Maya reminded him. She smiled. "You're not getting rid of me that easily." "Good," Lucian said. Then softer, "Good." The weeks that followed were the happiest Maya could remember. She moved her belongings from the guest room to Lucian's chambers, a sprawling suite on the 3rd floor, with windows that overlooked the grounds. They fell into a routine that felt both strange and utterly natural. Maya spent her days drawing and exploring the city now that she no longer feared every shadow. Lucian joined her in the evenings, and they would talk for hours about everything and nothing. He told her stories from his long life, about the places he'd seen and the people he'd known. She told him about her dreams for the future, about the art she wanted to create, about the life she'd thought she'd lost when Derek had entered it. One evening, Maya found Lucian in his private study, surrounded by account ledgers and legal documents. "What's all this?" she asked. Lucian looked up, a slight smile on his face. "Derek's monthly donations to women's shelters. I'm verifying the funds cleared properly." Maya moved closer, peering at the numbers. "That's a lot of money." "It is," Lucian agreed. "And it's helping a lot of women. The shelters report they've been able to expand services, hire more counselors, provide better security. Some good came from all that pain." Maya felt warmth bloom in her chest. "You did that. You turned something terrible into something that helps people." "We did that," Lucian corrected. "Your courage, your willingness to accept help, that's what made this possible." He pulled her into his lap, and Maya went willingly, resting her head against his shoulder. "I've been thinking," she said. "About what?" "About other Derek Montgomerys," Maya said. "About how many women are out there right now, trapped like I was, too afraid to leave because they don't think anyone will help them." Lucian's arms tightened around her. "It's a depressingly large number." "What if we helped them?" Maya asked. "What if we used your resources, your contacts, to create a real network? Not just donations, but active intervention, finding women who need help, providing them with safety, supporting them while they rebuild their lives." Lucian was quiet for a moment. "That would be dangerous," he said finally. "People like Derek, they don't give up easily. We'd be making enemies." "We already have enemies," Maya pointed out. "At least this way, we'd be doing something meaningful with our time." Lucian pulled back to look at her properly. "You're serious about this?" "Completely," Maya said. "I spent months running, feeling helpless, convinced no one would believe me or help me. You changed that. You gave me my life back. I want to do that for other people." A slow smile spread across Lucian's face. "You know," he said, "when I first saw you in that alley, desperate and afraid, I thought I was saving you. Turns out you've been saving me too." "How so?" Maya asked. "You reminded me why I do this," Lucian said. "Why I stay involved with humanity instead of retreating into isolation. For so long it's been about stopping predators, about using my power to protect the weak. But you've shown me it can be about more than that. It can be about building something positive, not just tearing down the negative." "So is that a yes?" Maya asked. "That's a yes," Lucian said. "We'll start small, a few cases at a time. Build a network of people we trust, and we'll be smart about it, careful. I won't let my desire to help put you in danger." Maya kissed him softly. "I love you," she said. The words came out easily, naturally, as if they'd been waiting for the right moment. Lucian's eyes widened slightly. Then his expression softened into something Maya had never seen before. Pure, unguarded joy. "I love you too," he said, "though I'm still terrified this is going to end badly." "It might," Maya allowed. "But it also might not. And either way, I'd rather spend my life with you, however long that is, than spend it safe and alone." They kissed again, and Maya felt something settle in her chest, a sense of rightness, of being exactly where she was meant to be. Over the next months, they began their work in earnest. Lucian used his connections to identify women in situations similar to what Maya had experienced. They created safe houses, hired security, provided financial support and legal resources. Maya, drawing on her own experiences, helped these women navigate their fear and trauma, showed them that escape was possible, that they deserved better. Word spread quietly among those who needed to know. A network formed, built on trust and discretion. Other vampires, those who shared Lucian's philosophy of using their power to protect rather than exploit, joined the effort. Humans, too, lawyers and social workers and counselors who believed in the work. It wasn't easy. There were setbacks and failures. Some women weren't ready to leave. Some abusers were more dangerous than anticipated. But there were victories, too. Women who rebuilt their lives, children who grew up safe, men who faced consequences for their actions. 6 months into the work, Maya was in the main house library when Mrs. Chen announced a visitor. A young woman, barely 20, stood in the entrance hall. She had a black eye and carried a single backpack. "My friend told me to come here," the woman said, her voice shaking. "She said you help people." "You're safe here," Maya said, moving forward slowly, keeping her movements non-threatening. "What's your name?" "Sarah," the woman whispered. "My boyfriend, he..." She couldn't finish. Maya took her hand gently. "You don't have to explain. Not yet. Come sit down. Let's get you something warm to drink. We'll figure out the rest later." As Maya led Sarah toward the kitchen, she caught Lucian's eye. He stood in the doorway of his study, watching. The look on his face was proud, and tender and sad, all at once. They both knew this work would never end. There would always be more Sarahs. More women needing help. More abusers who needed stopping. But they also knew it mattered. Every person helped. Every life changed. It all mattered. That night, after Sarah was settled in one of the guest rooms, Maya found Lucian on the terrace. He stood looking out over the grounds, his expression distant. "Thinking about the future?" Maya asked, slipping her hand into his. "Always," Lucian said. He pulled her close. "I was thinking how strange it is that I spent 3 centuries avoiding exactly this. Connection. Purpose. Love. All because I was afraid of the pain of losing it. And now?" Maya prompted. "Now I realize the pain will come regardless," Lucian said. "But the joy, the meaning, that only comes if I'm willing to risk it." He kissed the top of her head. "You taught me that." "We taught each other," Maya said. "You showed me I deserve to be safe, to be loved, to take up space in the world. I showed you that being alive means more than just not dying." 2 years passed like water through fingers, both achingly slow and impossibly fast. Maya's art career bloomed under the stability Lucian provided. Her sketches evolved into paintings, large canvases that galleries started requesting. She donated a portion of each sale to their growing network of safe houses. The work expanded beyond what they'd imagined. They now operated in 5 cities, helping dozens of women every month. Lucian's wealth, accumulated over centuries, finally had a purpose beyond mere existence. He hired investigators to track abusers, lawyers to navigate legal systems, security to ensure safety. Maya became the face of the operation, the one survivors trusted because she'd walked their path. She spoke at shelters, shared her story, showed other women that escape was possible. Lucian stayed in the shadows, as vampires did, but his presence was felt in every protection detail. every legal victory, every woman who found safety. Their home became a way station for healing. Women stayed for weeks or months, regaining strength before moving on to permanent housing. Maya taught art classes in the conservatory. Lucian, to everyone's surprise, offered music lessons to children who came with their mothers. He played piano like someone who'd had centuries to perfect the skill, which of course he had. But personally, the time was harder. Maya felt it in small ways at first. A silver hair among the brown, fine lines at the corners of her eyes. Her 30th birthday came and went. Then, her 31st. Lucian remained unchanged, frozen at whatever age he'd been when he'd been turned. 30-something and beautiful and eternal. They didn't talk about it, this growing gap between them. But Maya saw how Lucian looked at her sometimes, with a sadness he tried to hide. How he would trace the small lines on her face with gentle fingers, as if memorizing them before time added more. One evening, Maya found him in the study, holding a small velvet box. "What's that?" she asked. Lucian looked up, startled. He'd been so lost in thought he hadn't heard her approach. "A question," he said finally, "and possibly a terrible idea. May I see?" Maya held out her hand. Lucian hesitated, then handed her the box. Inside was a ring, simple and elegant. A single stone set in silver, designed to catch light and hold it. "It's beautiful," Maya whispered. Lucian stood, taking the box from her hands. He didn't take out the ring, not yet. "I want to marry you," he said. "I know it's complicated. I know we can't grow old together. Not really. I know that every year that passes makes the difference between us more obvious. But I want to marry you anyway. I want whatever time we have to be officially, legally, eternally yours." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "Yes," she said. Lucian blinked. "Just yes? No concerns about the future? No worries about what people will think when you age and I don't?" "I have concerns," Maya said. "I have worries. But I love you. And I want to be your wife. And I'm not going to let fear of the future steal joy from the present." So yes, Lucian slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, as if it had been made for her hand, which, knowing Lucian's attention to detail, it probably had been. They were married quietly in the estate's garden, with Mrs. Chen and a handful of their closest allies as witnesses. No big celebration, no society announcement, just vows spoken under starlight, promises made with full knowledge of their impermanence. "I promise to love you," Maya said, holding Lucian's cold hands in her warm ones, "for as long as I have breath, in this life and whatever comes after. I promise to cherish every moment we have, knowing they're finite and therefore precious. I promise to live fully, love completely, and never regret choosing you." Lucian's voice was steady, but Maya saw tears in his eyes. "I promise to protect you, to honor you, to spend every night of my immortal existence grateful that you chose me. I promise to make whatever time we have worth the pain of losing you, and I promise that when you're gone, I will keep our work alive. We'll help others the way we helped each other. We'll make sure your light continues even after." They kissed as husband and wife, and Maya felt complete in a way she never had before. The years continued their relentless march. Maya turned 35, then 40. Her hair gained more silver. Her face gained more lines. She remained beautiful, at least to Lucian, but she saw him struggle with her aging in ways he couldn't hide. One night she found him in their bedroom, holding a photograph. It was from their wedding day, 5 years earlier. Maya in that photo looked young and vibrant. The woman in the mirror looked tired, marked by time in ways Lucian would never be. "I'm sorry," Lucian said quietly. "For what?" Maya asked. "For not being able to stop this," he gestured at the photograph. "For watching you age while I stay frozen. For knowing that every day brings you closer to the end while I have centuries left. You're going to outlive me by hundreds of years, and I hate that. I'll miss so much of your existence." "I know," Lucian said, "and you'll be just a brief chapter in mine. no matter how much I wish otherwise. He set down the photograph. But you're the most important chapter, the one that changed everything. Maya crossed to him, taking his face in her hands. Listen to me, she said firmly. We knew what this was from the beginning. We chose it anyway, and I don't regret a single moment. Yes, I'm aging. Yes, I'll die. But I've lived more fully in these 7 years with you than I did in all the years before. You gave me that. Don't apologize for it. Lucian pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. I love you, he whispered. I know, Maya said. I love you too. The work sustained them through the difficult moments. They helped hundreds of women now, their network spanning a dozen cities. Maya's paintings raised awareness and funds. Lucian's resources made the impossible possible. They were making a real difference, creating systemic change that would outlast both of them. On Maya's 45th birthday, they threw a party at the estate. Not for her birthday specifically, but to celebrate a milestone. Their 1,000th woman helped. 1,000 lives changed. 1,000 futures opened. The house filled with survivors, counselors, lawyers, and supporters. Stories were shared. Tears were shed. Hope bloomed in every corner. Maya stood on the terrace, watching the celebration, and felt Lucian's arms wrap around her from behind. Look at what we built, he said softly. Look at all the light you brought into the world. We brought it together, Maya corrected. You taught me that power could be used to protect, instead of harm. I just helped you remember why you wanted to. They stood together as the party continued inside, watching stars emerge in the darkening sky. Maya knew her time was finite, knew that decades or perhaps just years from now, Lucian would stand on this terrace alone. But she also knew their work would continue, that the network they'd built would outlast her, that the women they'd helped would help others in turn. Maya's 50th birthday arrived with autumn leaves and the kind of crisp air that promised winter. She moved slower now, her joints protesting in ways they hadn't a decade before. But her mind remained sharp, her passion for the work undiminished. The network had grown beyond anything they'd imagined. 20 cities now, with plans for expansion into rural areas where abuse often went unreported because survivors had nowhere to run. They'd helped thousands of women. Some stayed in touch, sending updates and photos. Others disappeared into new lives, which was exactly as it should be. That evening, Lucian found Maya in the library. She'd been sorting through old case files, making notes for the younger coordinators who would eventually take over her role. We should talk, Lucian said quietly. About the future. Maya set down her pen. She'd known this conversation was coming. Had been expecting it for months, actually. Sit, she said, gesturing to the chair beside her. Lucian sat, but he didn't look at her. Instead, he stared at his hands, those hands that had held her through 7 years of marriage, hands that would look the same long after hers were dust. I've been researching, he said finally. There are options. Ways to extend your life beyond normal human lifespan. Not immortality, but decades. Maybe a century if we're lucky. Maya's heart clenched. Lucian. No, please listen. Lucian looked at her now, and his eyes were desperate. I've found vampire blood can slow aging if administered carefully. Not enough to turn you, but enough to give us more time. 50 more years. Maybe 60. I could have you that much longer. And what would I be? Maya asked gently. Still human or something in between? Still myself or altered into something else? I don't know, Lucian admitted. Probably something in between. But you'd be alive. You'd be with me. She took his hands, feeling the cold of his skin against her warmth. My love, she said softly. I know you're scared. I know watching me age has been hard, but I can't become something I'm not just to stay with you longer. This is my life. This human life with all its limitations and brevity. It's what makes it precious. But you'll die. Lucian's voice broke. You'll die and I'll be alone again. Not alone, Maya said. You'll have the work. You'll have all the people we've helped, all the lives we've touched. You'll have our legacy, and you'll have the memory of what we had together, which was real and true and complete exactly as it was." "I don't want a memory," Lucian said. "I want you." "I know." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "But wanting doesn't change reality. I'm human. I age. I'll die. That was always going to be true, whether we had 7 years together or 70. What matters is what we do with the time we have." They sat in silence for a long moment, holding hands, feeling the weight of mortality pressing down on them. Finally, Lucian spoke. "How much time?" "The doctor says my heart is weakening," Maya said quietly. "Maybe 5 years. Maybe 10 if I'm lucky and careful. Maybe less if I'm not." Lucian closed his eyes. Maya saw a tear slip down his cheek, the first she'd ever seen him shed. "I'm not ready," he whispered. "I'll never be ready." "Neither am I," Maya said. "But that doesn't change anything." She leaned forward, pressing her forehead against his. "So we make the most of what we have left. We keep helping people. We keep loving each other. We keep living until I can't anymore." And then, Lucian's voice was barely audible. "Then you let me go," Maya said. "You grieve. You heal, and you keep doing this work. Because it matters and because it's our legacy together. You don't disappear into isolation and grief. You stay connected to the world. Promise me." "I can't promise that," Lucian said. "Yes, you can," Maya insisted. "Because you're stronger than you think. Because you've survived centuries of loss and kept going. Because our work is too important to abandon. Promise me, Lucian." Lucian was silent for a long time. Then, slowly, he nodded. "I promise," he said. "I'll keep the work going. I'll help others. I won't retreat from the world." But he pulled back to look at her, and his eyes were fierce. "But I will grieve you. I will mourn you. I will carry the weight of losing you for every century I have left. And I will never, ever forget what we had." "Good," Maya said, smiling through her tears. "I'd hate to be forgotten." The remaining years passed with bittersweet intensity. They traveled, seeing places Maya had always dreamed of visiting. They threw themselves into the work with renewed vigor, helping as many people as they could. They held each other every night, treasuring the warmth of her skin against the cold of his, knowing each day brought them closer to the end. Maya's health declined gradually. The strong woman who'd once stood up to Derek Montgomery now needed help climbing stairs. The artist whose hands had created beauty now struggled to hold a paintbrush. But her spirit remained unbroken. On what would be their final night together, Maya lay in their bed, Lucian holding her close. The room was filled with people who loved them. Mrs. Chen, who'd been there from the beginning. Sarah, the first woman they'd helped through their network, now a counselor herself. Dozens of others whose lives had been changed by their work. "Thank you," Maya whispered to Lucian, "for giving me the best years of my life, for showing me what love really means, for building something beautiful with me." "Thank you for saving me," Lucian said, his voice thick with grief. "For reminding me why immortality is worth enduring, for giving me purpose and joy and love when I'd forgotten all three existed." "I love you," Maya said. Her voice was fading, her breathing shallow. "I'll love you beyond this life, into whatever comes next. And if there's any way to come back to you, I will." "I love you," Lucian said. "Always, forever. Beyond time and death and everything else." Maya smiled one last time. Then she closed her eyes and let go. The room filled with quiet grief, but also with gratitude for having known her, for having been part of what she and Lucian built together. Lucian held her for a long time after she was gone, memorizing the feel of her in his arms one final time. Then, gently, he laid her to rest. They buried Maya in the estate's garden, under the oak trees where she'd drawn so many sketches. Her gravestone was simple: Maya Chen, beloved wife, artist, savior. She showed us that strength comes in many forms. 10 years passed. Lucian kept his promise. The network expanded to 50 cities, then 100. They helped tens of thousands of women, created systemic changes in how domestic violence was handled. Lucian's wealth funded research, legal reforms, education programs. Maya's paintings, which had increased dramatically in value after her death, were sold to fund new shelters. Her art hung in museums now, beautiful and powerful, speaking to everyone who saw it about resilience and hope. Lucian himself became a ghost, known in advocacy circles but rarely seen. He worked from the shadows as vampires did, using his resources and influence without seeking recognition. But every woman who found safety, every abuser who faced consequences, every life that changed for the better, that was his tribute to Maya. That was how he kept her memory alive. On the 10th anniversary of her death, Lucian stood in the garden where she was buried. Others had gathered too, women Maya had helped, people the network had touched, counselors and lawyers and advocates who'd been inspired by her work. Sarah, now running 3 safe houses herself, stepped forward. She wanted to change the world, Sarah said, gesturing to the crowd. And she did. Not all at once, not in dramatic ways. But one person at a time, one life at a time. She made things better, and she taught us to do the same. Others shared stories. A woman Maya had counseled who now taught art to trauma survivors. A young lawyer Maya had encouraged who now specialized in domestic violence cases. A mother whose daughter Maya had saved, who'd grown up to become a social worker. As the sun set, Lucian finally spoke. His voice was quiet, but carried through the garden. Maya believed that strength came in many forms, he said. She showed me that immortality wasn't about living forever. It was about making the time you have matter. She had 54 years, and she changed thousands of lives. He looked at the gathered crowd. She'd want us to keep going, to help more people, to build on what we started together. So that's what we'll do. Not because she's gone, but because she showed us it was possible. The crowd dispersed slowly, leaving offerings at Maya's grave. Flowers and art and handwritten notes from people whose lives she'd touched. When Lucian was finally alone, he knelt beside the grave. "I miss you," he said quietly. "Every night. Every century will feel longer without you." But he stood, looking out at the estate, at the lights of the main house where even now, women were finding safety and starting to heal. "But you were right. The work matters. The lives we change matter. And loving you, even knowing I'd lose you, that mattered most of all." A breeze stirred through the garden, carrying the scent of flowers Maya had planted years ago. Lucian closed his eyes and let himself feel it, let himself remember her hands in the soil, her laughter as she'd explained which plants would bloom when. Then he walked back to the house. There was work to do, women to help, lives to change, a legacy to maintain. Maya had given him purpose when he'd forgotten it existed. The least he could do was honor that gift. In his study, new case files waited. A woman in Seattle needing extraction from an abusive situation. A teenager in Miami whose stepfather was dangerous. A mother in Atlanta fleeing with 3 children. Lucian opened the first file and began making calls. This was how he kept Maya alive. Not through grief or isolation, but through action. Through making sure her light continued burning even after she was gone. And someday, centuries from now, when his own immortality finally ended, whether through violence or weariness, or simple surrender, he would find her again. He believed that. Had to believe it, that somewhere beyond this life, beyond time and death and everything else, they would meet again. Until then, he had work to do. People to save. Good to create from the ashes of pain. It's what Maya would have wanted. What she had wanted, when she'd made him promise not to retreat from the world. So Lucian kept his promise. Year after year, decade after decade, century after century. The network grew. The work expanded. Lives were saved and changed and made better. And through it all, Lucian carried Maya with him. Not as a ghost or a burden, but as a light that continued to illuminate his path. She had been right, he realized. Loving her, despite knowing he would lose her, had been worth every moment of pain that followed. Because she had shown him how to live rather than merely exist, how to use his power to protect rather than dominate, how to build something meaningful that would outlast them both. The poor girl who had begged a stranger to pretend to be her boyfriend had ended up saving the Vampire King in ways he was still discovering. And in return, he had given her safety, love, and purpose. Together they had changed the world. One person at a time. One life at a time. They had made things better. That legacy continued, would continue for as long as Lucien existed to maintain it, and when he was finally gone, others would carry it forward. The work would never end, because there would always be more people who needed help. But there would also always be people willing to provide it, inspired by the example of a waitress turned artist and the vampire who loved her. In the end, that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.